I gave my all for Jetgu, helping him rise from a street thug to a man of immense power. Only after death did I realize I was merely a shadow he kept hidden in the dark. Skyo enjoys everything I worked for, reaping both fame and fortune with children gathered around her. Yet I, who poured out my heart and burned through my youth, ended up without even a name to call my own, he said to Skyo at my grave. She was a good tool, but in the end just a tool. You are the one who deserves to stand by my side. My soul roared with resentment. Why should I have paved the way for you? When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the moment I handed him the Skyward Project proposal. This time, I no longer begged for love humbly. In front of him, I burned the proposal to ashes. Zoe Lin, are you crazy? Jetgu's voice cracked as he shouted. I watched the proposal curl in the flames. The effort I spent countless sleepless nights completing was turning to ashes bit by bit. In my past life, it was this Skyward Project proposal that transformed him from a street thug into a rising star in the business world. Zoe, please stop messing around. Okay, Jetgu. I guessed his anger. You're angry about what happened the day before yesterday, right? I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have left you to accompany Sky to the banquet. Jetgu, do you think I'm jealous of Skya? Isn't that the case? He breathed a sigh of relief, thinking he had found the root of the problem. Zoe, you have to understand Sky comes from a good family and can help me in those situations. You're different. You're my most important partner, my right-hand woman. Our partnership ends here. I brushed the dust off my hands. Jetgu was shocked and grabbed my wrist. Zoe Lin, have you had enough? I've already explained to you that kind of occasion wasn't suitable for you. Was it really necessary to get so angry and burn through all the hard work we've put in together? He still acts so high and mighty, always thinking I'm the one being unreasonable. I shook off his hand. Our hard work? No, it's my hard work. Jetgu, do you know how much this proposal is worth? Of course I know. This is something we worked on together. 30 million. I interrupted him. That's a conservative estimate. This plan could bring you 30 million in profit. And what's my share? His expression shifted. Zoe, didn't we agree? Once the company grows into what? Until you marry Skyu and I continue to be your shadow, hidden in the dark? Jetgu, do you really think I don't see it? Every time there's an important event, she's the one by your side. Every time there's a business deal, she's the one signing the papers. And me? I'm always stuck in this shabby office like some hidden mistress planning everything for you. Jetgu's patience finally ran out, and he spoke impatiently. Zoe Lin, that's enough. I've taken good care of you. A woman with no background, no connections. If I hadn't given you a chance, do you think you'd be where you are today? What is Sky's status? The eldest daughter of the Su family. She can bring me resources. And you? Besides this little cleverness of yours, what else do you have? Well said. I clapped my hands. Since I'm just a woman with no background and no connections, wouldn't it be better for me to keep these plans and ideas for myself? I turned and walked to the desk, and right in front of him, I formatted all the files on the computer. Zoe Lin, how dare you? Jet rushed over to try to stop me, but it was already too late. I shut down the computer and picked up my bag. From today onwards, my talent is for my own use. With that, I turned and walked away. Behind me came his furious roar. Zoe Lin, if you leave, don't come back. Without me, you are nothing. I didn't stop walking, only letting out a mocking laugh. Jetgu, you will soon find out who is nothing without whom. I didn't go home. I went straight to the hospital. In my previous life, I always thought youth was my capital, relying on my good health to work day and night for Jetgu. I took 2 pills for stomach pain and toughed it out when I had a fever. Finally, I died of acute heart failure at the young age of 28. In this life, I will live well, live longer, and more brilliantly than anyone else. I breathed a sigh of relief after receiving the completely normal medical checkup report. Just as I stepped out of the hospital, my phone rang. It was my best friend, Boo. Zoe, where have you been? President Gu is going crazy with worry. Did you have another argument with him? Oh, you're just too stubborn. Someone like President Gu, it's only natural to have many admirers around him. Don't take it to heart. Besides, Skyu comes from such a good family. It's beneficial for the company's future for President Gu to build a good relationship with her. You should try to understand him. In my previous life, it was her who, while urging me to be forgiving, reported all my movements to Skyu after I died. She became Skyu's most capable assistant, enjoying immense success and admiration. I suppressed the disgust in my heart and feigned a tired and aggrieved tone, as if on the verge of tears. I just feel so upset for Skyu. He's even leaving me out of tomorrow's important banquet. He said that for that project he wants Skyu to be his female companion to show her face in front of President Wang. Boo, on the other end of the phone, immediately comforted me. Silly, that's all just talk. In Mr. Gu's heart, there's only you. That project with President Wang is so important. It's related to the company's next round of funding. Mr. Gu has no choice. Rest well. Don't overthink it. I'll try to persuade Mr. Gu for you again. After hanging up the phone, I pouted. Hypocritical facade. Why didn't I see through it in my past life? President Wang's series of funding. Jet Gu, isn't your biggest reliance the proposal I wrote for you? Now that the business plan is gone, I want to see how you're going to boast about your business empire in front of the investors tomorrow night. I hailed a taxi and gave the name of the city's most exclusive private club. While the car was waiting at a red light, a black Bentley next to us suddenly lost control and crashed straight into me. My pupils contracted, and I instinctively shielded my head.
Bang!
The violent impact left me dizzy. The airbag deployed and chaos reigned outside the car window. The car door was forcefully pulled open, and a man in a black suit leaned in. "Miss, are you all right?" I looked up and met a pair of deep, penetrating eyes. The man was exceptionally handsome, exuding an air of noble aloofness that kept others at a distance. It's him, Shanzai, the enigmatic and reclusive head of the Shin Group. In my past life, he had been Jet Gu's most formidable rival and the entrepreneur I admired the most. I never expected that in this lifetime we would meet in such a way. "I'm fine." I steadied myself. He seemed to breathe a sigh of relief and handed me his business card. "Apologies. My driver made a mistake. Shun Corporation will take full responsibility for all your losses." His gaze fell on the wound on my forehead. "You need to go to the hospital." "No need." I shook my head. "It's just a minor injury. I have more important things to do." I looked at him and, as if possessed, asked, "Mr. Shun, are you also going to the Chiang Club tonight?" He nodded. "Perfect. Can you give me a ride? My car probably won't make it." Chiang Club, top floor banquet hall. Jet Gu was standing on the stage full of confidence with Skyu by his side, wearing a white gown and smiling with gentle charm. "In the next 3 years, our Nebula project will completely transform the ecosystem of the entire industry." The audience erupted in applause. I stood in the corner, watching coldly as he boasted with great enthusiasm about the plan I had already burned to ashes. He dared to paint such an extravagant picture here, relying only on scattered keywords from his memory. Ridiculously foolish, Skyu held her arm, her gaze sweeping across the room as if unintentionally, finally landing on me with a provocative smile. She thought I was still the Zoe Lin from the previous life who could only hide in the shadows, watching them shine in the limelight. "Zoe Lin, what brings you here?" Bu had somehow come closer, her gaze shifting between my simple attire and Shinzai, who stood beside me with an imposing presence. "And who is this?" "My new boss, Mr. Shinzai," I said calmly. Bu's expression turned quite dramatic. "Zoe, how could you? How could you go to a rival company?" she whispered, looking utterly dismayed on my behalf. I couldn't be bothered to respond, my gaze fixed on the middle-aged man with a receding hairline not far away. "Mr. Wang, the most important series investor at tonight's banquet." I picked up the champagne and walked straight toward him. "Mr. Wang, I've long heard of you." Mr. Wang clearly didn't recognize me and just nodded politely. "My name is Zoe Lin, the true founder of the Stellar Project." With just one sentence, I managed to make President Wang frown and caused Jetgu and Skyu, who were not far away, to change their expressions drastically. I have a more interesting complete solution in my hands than the castrated version on stage. I wonder if President Wang would be interested in hearing it. Zoe Lin. Jetgu could no longer maintain his composure. He rushed down the stage, grabbed my wrist, and glared at me angrily. What nonsense are you spouting here? Skyu also followed, looking pitiful as she explained to President Wang. President Wang, please don't listen to her nonsense, Zoe. She must have had a disagreement with Jet and in a moment of frustration is saying such nonsense. Having a tiff? I laughed, my gaze icy, as it swept over her. Miss Sue, as an outsider, what makes you think we're having a tiff? Skyu was momentarily speechless, caught off guard by my retort. Jetgu was completely enraged. He shook off my hand, pointed at my nose, and began to slander me recklessly in front of all the guests. She's just an employee I fired. She was incompetent and had a terrible attitude. After being let go, she held a grudge and came here to ruin my financing. Her so-called plan is nothing more than stealing the superficial aspects of our company and trying to claim them as her own. A woman with such ill intentions and ingratitude. Not a single word, she says, can be trusted. Slander, humiliation, malicious accusations. How similar this is to the words he spoke at my grave in my previous life. The people around me began to point fingers, their eyes filled with contempt and disdain. However, I did not cry, nor did I feel angry. I just looked at him calmly, as if watching a clown perform. Then I pressed the play button on my phone. Sky comes from such a good family. Building a good relationship with her is beneficial for the company's future. You have to understand him. President Gu said, you are the most useful stepping stone on his path to success. Once the company goes public and he marries Miss Sue, you will surely be well rewarded. Bu's hypocritical voice echoed throughout the banquet hall through the Bluetooth speaker. Everyone was stunned. Jetju and Skya's faces instantly turned pale. Bu was so frightened that her legs went weak. Jetgue suddenly turned to Skyu. What did you say to her? Skyu trembled at his shout. Instead of looking at Jetgu, she turned to me, crying and pleading. Zoe, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Jet is under too much pressure. He didn't really mean it. Please, for the sake of our past relationship, don't ruin him. With her tears, she portrayed herself as a pitiful person enduring humiliation for love. And I became the vengeful one, ruthless and unforgiving of past affections. Some of the guests looked at me again with scrutiny and disapproval. What a clever move of advancing by retreating. I looked at her and smiled, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. Affection, the kind where you report all my movements to him. Or the kind where he schemed to kick me aside once I've exhausted all my efforts. I took a step forward, closing in on her. Miss Sue, I have plenty more recordings. Would you like to hear now how you all discussed dividing my contributions after my death? Sky's sobbing abruptly stopped, her eyes wide with terror. At that moment, a cool, playful voice broke the deadlock. Stepping stone. Shanzai slowly walked to my side, his gaze sweeping over the pale-faced Jetgu before finally settling on me. Such a fine piece of uncut jade. And in President Gu's eyes, it's merely a stepping stone. He gracefully took the phone from my hand, turned off the recording, and then turned to President Wang, who was already dumbfounded. President Wang, you've seen for yourself what kind of person President Gu is. As for his so-called Nebula project. Shanzai chuckled, full of mockery. It's nothing but a shoddy imitation of others' ideas. He paused, then extended his hand to me in front of everyone. Miss Zoe Lin, would you be interested in joining my company as my partner? The entire room erupted in an uproar. Shanzai's voice echoed throughout the room. All your talents are worth a fortune in my eyes. I'm giving you the chance to reclaim everything that belongs to you and then crush him under your feet. How about it? I gripped his hand firmly and nodded solemnly. My honor. After that night, Jetgu became the laughingstock of the entire social scene. The financing failed, and the core efforts were undermined. The scandal of his poor character and rising through the ranks by relying on women caused his stock price to plummet overnight. The company is on the brink of collapse. As Shanzai's partner, I have officially joined the Shin Group. The office he gave me is right next to his, with a huge floor-to-ceiling window that offers a panoramic view of the city's prosperity. Your talent should not be buried in the shadows. Shanzai handed me a cup of warm water. I've reviewed that proposal. From now on, all of Shin Group's resources will be at your disposal. In my past life, I devoted all my heart and talent to Jetgu, only to be called the most useful stepping stone. Yet this man before me, a stranger I met by chance, has given me unreserved trust and respect. I gripped the water glass tightly. Thank you. You're welcome. I just happened to pass by and blew the dust off the pearl. The project was launched quickly, and I threw myself into it, fighting for myself. Shanzai's presence was like a silent, yet constant source of light. When I was too busy to remember lunch, he would have his assistant bring me a warm, nutritious meal. While I worked late into the night, the light in his office was always on. Occasionally, he would bring me warm milk, claiming he just happened to be passing by. He never said much, yet in a quiet, gentle way, he healed the scars of my painful past. In stark contrast, Jetgu fell completely into the abyss. His calls and messages, which started as threats and angry outbursts, gradually turned into desperate, hysterical pleas. Please, Zoe, I was wrong. Please come back. Without you, the company really can't hold on. Only you can handle the Nebula project. Come back. I'll give you shares and make you vice president. I ignored all of them and blocked every contact. Finally, driven to desperation, he made a scene downstairs at Shin's building. I was discussing the details of the plan with Shanzai when the front desk called. I'll have security handle it. Shanzai frowned, his tone clearly displeased. No need. I closed the file and stood up. Some trash needs to be thrown out personally to ensure it never comes back. I went down to the lobby where Jetgu was being held back by 2 security guards. He seemed to have dressed up carefully, his suit still crisp, but the dark circles under his eyes and the bloodshot whites revealed all his disarray. Seeing me, he looked as if he had seen his savior, breaking free from the guards and rushing toward me. Zoe. I looked at him coldly, as if he were a stranger. My gaze stung him, and he flustered tried to grab my hand, but I sidestepped to avoid it. Zoe, let me explain. He lowered his posture, his tone one of humility I had never heard before. I was confused that night at the banquet. Sky was just a pawn I used. The one I've always loved is you. Seeing my indifference, he anxiously threw out his bargaining chip. Look, I'll break it off with her right now. As he spoke, he really took out his phone, dialed Skya's number in front of me, and put it on speaker. Skyu, we're breaking up. I never loved you. Everything I did was for Zoe. A disbelieving scream came from Skyu on the other end of the line. I only felt an overwhelming sense of irony. Look, this is the man I once loved for a lifetime. For the sake of profit, he wouldn't hesitate to push me into the abyss. Now, for the sake of profit, he wouldn't hesitate to kick someone else down. Selfish and unfeeling. It's ingrained in your very bones. Are you done with the act, Zoe? What do you mean by this, Jetgu? Do you still not understand? I took a step forward. Who you break up with means nothing to me. You abandoning her, just like how you schemed against me back then, only proves that you're worse than a commodity. At least a commodity still has its value. No, that's not it. He was completely flustered. I did all of this for you. To win you back. Win me back. Do you think I came down here today to listen to your ridiculous excuses? To watch you and Skyu tear each other apart like dogs? I just wanted to see for myself how despicable the man I once loved to death, the man I would have given my life for, could truly be. His pupils contracted sharply and his body trembled. I watched his crumbling expression with satisfaction, stepped back, and resumed my indifference. Now I see you can get lost, Zoe Lin. He was finally completely shattered, all pretense turning into ferocious madness as he roared and lunged at me. You can't do this to me. Just as he was about to touch me, a warm suit jacket suddenly wrapped around me. I was pulled into a warm embrace. Shanzai had at some point already stepped in front of me, shielding me behind him. President Ge, show some dignity from now on. Stay away from my person. Publicly humiliated by Shanzai, Jetgu lost all his dignity. On the other hand, Sky Su, who was publicly used and discarded, completely lost her sanity. Soon, numerous defamatory posts about me appeared online, exposing the rise of Project Ursa Major led by Zoe Lin, a chaotic personal life comparable to that of a player. In order to out the legitimate girlfriend, she resorted to seducing the boss, turning the Shun group into a den of iniquity. The post was vividly described, accompanied by a few sneakily taken photos from tricky angles. One was a tugging photo of me being harassed by Jetgu, shielding me behind him. Another was an intimate photo of him sending me home late at night after overtime, tightening my coat under the car lights. Maliciously edited footage paired with suggestive text was enough to make viewers imagine a full-blown drama. I became the universally condemned mistress and scheming woman. Assistant Xiao Chun held the tablet, her hands trembling with anger. Zoe, this is too much. 2 of our partners have already called, saying they need to reassess the risks of working with us. I scrolled through the screen and paused on a photo. It was the moment Shanzai wrapped me in his suit. In the photo, my face was buried in his chest and my expression was unclear. The comment section was unbearable to look at. TSK. Isn't this just throwing herself into his arms? What's the use of being skilled in technology? In the end, it all comes down to sleeping your way to the top. I feel sorry for the original partner. They can't compete with such a cunning vixen. These vulgar remarks are so similar to the slander I endured in my past life. Let them make a scene. The bigger, the better. Sky Su wants to use public opinion to destroy me, but she doesn't realize that the power of this weapon varies drastically depending on who wields it. When Shanzai pushed the door open and entered, I had just closed my laptop. He spoke calmly. The legal department is gathering evidence. Don't let it affect you. He walked over to me. His tall figure cast a shadow that enveloped me. His crisp woody scent dispelled the restlessness around us. He looked down at me and asked in a low voice, "What do you need me to do, President Sean?" "I'd like to borrow your influence." 3 days later, the Polaris project launch event was held as scheduled. I stood under the spotlight, facing the flashing cameras of major media outlets and the inquisitive gazes of business elites. I know most of them aren't here for the project. They're here to watch the spectacle of me. I ignored the malicious gazes and, with the most professional presentation, laid out the grand commercial blueprint of the Polaris project before everyone. The speech concluded with thunderous applause. During the Q&A session, after a few professional questions, a journalist finally couldn't hold back and directed the microphone at me, posing a sharp and cutting question. "Miss Lin, while the Polaris project is indeed impressive, as the core figure of this project, how can we trust you to lead this multi-billion-dollar initiative given your chaotic personal life and questionable moral character? What is your response to the online accusations of you being a mistress?" I gripped the microphone, faced all the cameras, and spoke slowly. "Thank you for your question, journalist. You mentioned moral character, and I fully agree. It is the foundation of a person. Precisely because of this, I left my previous company because my former partner, for personal gain, attempted to sacrifice my work and trample on my principles, and I refused to be associated with such behavior. As for the mistress accusation you mentioned," I chuckled lightly. "In my view, a man who would use a project he personally built as a bargaining chip and abandon his current partner without hesitation to protect his interests isn't even worthy of being considered a scandal partner by me. Does he even deserve it?" The reporter was left speechless by my retort. The room erupted in an uproar, with everyone whispering to each other, clearly stunned by the information-packed statement. At that moment, Shanzai stood up and walked step by step onto the stage. He naturally took the microphone from my hand and shielded me by his side. He stood by my side, his gaze sweeping across the entire room. First, Miss Zoe Lin's talent and integrity are vouched for by me and the Shun Group with a 10 billion yuan project and our entire reputation. Any slander against her professional abilities is a provocation against the Shun Group." He paused, turned his head slightly, and his eyes fell on my face. "Second, I personally hold Miss Zoe Lin in high regard. I am the one pursuing her. Therefore, there is no inappropriate relationship whatsoever." The entire venue erupted with an even louder roar. Shanzai ignored it and abruptly changed the subject. "As for some people, instead of spending money to hire internet trolls, they should first think about how to fill the company's financial hole. As far as I know, the Su Group's capital chain has already broken. At the latest, they will file for bankruptcy liquidation next week." He looked toward the reporter in the audience, whose face had long since turned ashen, trying to step on me to climb up. Is she even worthy? Sky's proud identity as a rich person turned out to be nothing but a hollow shell. She wanted to step on me to rise, but Shanzai kicked her into the abyss. The news of the Su family's bankruptcy became the last straw that broke Jetgu. The company went bankrupt, drowning in debt, and everyone turned their backs on him from heaven to hell. It only took a few short months. I thought I would feel triumphant. But when this day actually came, I felt unusually calm. He was just someone I cut off early, a failed ex. My life has long since turned a new page. The Polaris project was a huge success, and Shanzai and I became the hottest golden duo in the business world. We traveled on business together, attended meetings together, and worked hard for our shared goals. I gradually got used to having him around. I got used to his quiet care, his occasional teasing, and the focused look in his eyes when he looked at me. None of us ever brought up his statement, "I'm pursuing her again." I'm afraid all of this is just a fleeting illusion. I'm afraid that if I give my true heart, I'll end up shattered in the end. That night at the project celebration banquet, I had a few too many drinks. Shanzai took me home. The car was parked downstairs at the apartment and I didn't get out right away. The alcohol had made me a bit bolder. "Shanzai," I asked softly, looking at the neon lights outside the window. "Why are you so good to me?" The car was very quiet, with only the sound of our breathing audible. After a long time, he finally spoke. "Because you deserve it. I don't want to see your light overshadowed by anyone again." I turned my head and, emboldened by the alcohol, looked straight into his eyes. "So, does that thing about pursuing still count?" He froze, seemingly caught off guard by my directness. Then he smiled. He leaned in, his warm breath brushing past my ear. "Of course it counts, Zoe Lin. I like you. Not because of your talent. Not because of your worth, but simply because you are you. Would you give me a chance?" I looked into the seriousness and anticipation in his eyes and could no longer deceive myself. I nodded. "All right." He leaned in and gently kissed my lips. The kiss was light, tender, and carried a careful sense of cherishing. At that moment, my phone rang. "This is Jet Goose's number." I frowned and hung up, but he called again, persistent and unyielding. Shanzai answered the phone for me and put it on speaker. From the other end of the line came Jet Goose's desperate, sobbing cries. "Zoe, I had a dream. I dreamed about my past life. I dreamed that you died in the office. It was my fault. I'm so sorry. That wasn't just a dream, was it? It's true. All of it is true, Zoe. Please give me another chance. Let me make it up to you." Okay. I froze completely. He remembered, too. Had he also been reborn? No, that's not right. If it were a rebirth, he wouldn't have waited until now to come find me. What he said was, he dreamed about it, just like in my previous life. After I died, I could see him laughing and chatting with Skyu in front of my grave. Perhaps my resentment was too strong. So, at his lowest point, I became the nightmare that haunted him. "Zoe Lin, say something. Do you remember too? Is that why you hate me so much?" "It's my fault. I'm not a decent person. You can hit me or scold me. Just please don't ignore me." It sounds like there's some sincerity in it. But alas, it was too late. I picked up the phone. "Jetgu, those weren't dreams. It was I who was drained of my blood and ground to death by you in this lifetime. Are you coming to regret it now because you find it amusing? No, that's not it, Zoe. I truly know I was wrong. I interrupted him. I am already dead, having perished in your indifference and exploitation in my past life. The Zoe Lynn who is alive now has nothing to do with you anymore. I don't need the compensation you're talking about. I just want you to disappear completely from my world. After saying that, I hung up the phone and turned it off. The car fell back into silence. Shanzai didn't speak, just looked at me. Sorry, I whispered, for making you see me like this. This isn't a joke. He held my cold hand. Was what he said about a past life true? He asked. I looked up and met his inquisitive gaze. At this point, there's no use hiding it anymore. I nodded. Do you believe it? Such a far-fetched story. I believe it. He answered without hesitation, because same here. I, too, am someone who has lived a second life. I opened my eyes wide in shock, staring at him in disbelief. In my previous life, I was your rival. I watched you single-handedly build a business empire for Jetgu. I've always been curious about what kind of woman could possess such extraordinary talent and ability. I've thought many times about luring you away from him. Unfortunately, I never found the right opportunity until I died in a freak car accident. He smiled self-mockingly. That car accident was Jetgu's doing. He couldn't tolerate a rival like me. After I died, my soul wandered, and I saw many things. I saw you after he achieved fame and success, being cast aside like a worn-out shoe, eventually working yourself to death at your desk. I also saw that without you, Jetgu would go bankrupt in less than 3 years and end up in a miserable state. So when I opened my eyes again and returned to the time before the car accident, the first thing I did was come to find you. He held my hand tightly, looking at me with a burning gaze. Zoe Lynn, in our past life, we missed each other. In this life, I don't want to miss out again. Perhaps the heavens let us both live again just so we could meet each other. My tears flowed uncontrollably. So that's how it is. We were both once abandoned by fate, licking our wounds alone in the darkness. And now we have found each other. 2 lonely souls have finally found their home. I threw myself into his arms, holding him tightly. Shanzai, thank you. Thank you for coming into my life. After Shanzai and I confessed our secrets to each other, our relationship entered a whole new phase. We are each other's only soulmates. He no longer hides his care and affection for me, and I have let down all my defenses, learning to accept and respond to his feelings. Our company, under our joint management, is thriving and quickly became the absolute leader in the industry, and Jetgu disappeared from my world. I occasionally see his disheveled figure in gossip news. It seems he was truly driven mad by that nightmare, becoming completely deranged, often muttering to himself on the streets. But I no longer have emotional fluctuations for him. To me, he is just an insignificant stranger. A year later, Shanzai proposed to me on a very ordinary day. There was no grand scene, no expensive diamond ring. He just brought me a cup of warm milk late at night while I was working overtime as usual. Then, he took out a small program from his pocket that kept flashing heart-shaped patterns. In my previous life, I saw you had written something similar in Jetgu's computer. He said it was a love letter you wrote for him. In this lifetime, I want to use your way to tell you how I feel. He knelt on one knee, looking up at me. Zoe Lynn, I know you don't need to rely on anyone. You are the brightest light all on your own. I don't want to be your whole world. I just want to be the most steadfast supporter and the warmest harbor in your world. Will you marry me? I laughed through my tears and nodded emphatically. Our wedding was simple and warm. We only invited our closest friends. At the wedding, Shanzai's parents held my hand. Good child. It's his blessing to have met you. I then learned that Shanzai did not have a happy childhood. His parents were busy with their careers early on and neglected him, which made his personality cold and withdrawn. It wasn't until he met me that he truly learned how to love and how to express himself. We are all people who have been hurt, but fortunately, we met each other and healed one another. In the 2nd year of our marriage, I became pregnant. It was a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. Shanzai was as nervous as a child. Staying by my side 24 hours a day, he pushed aside all the company matters he could, making delicious meals for me in different ways every day, taking walks with me, and telling me stories. I often leaned against his chest, feeling the movements of the little life inside me. And it all felt so blissful, it was almost unreal. Shanzai, do you think we're too happy? Silly. He kissed my forehead. This is what we deserve. We have all walked through hell, and now it's time to taste the sweetness of heaven. On the day the child was born, I was wheeled into the delivery room. Shanzai was pacing anxiously outside, and it said he nearly wore a hole in the hospital corridor when the nurse came out holding the two babies and told him that both mother and children were safe. This decisive man, who is ruthless in the business world, cried like a 200-pound child. He held my sweaty hand and said over and over, "Wife, you've worked hard." I looked at him and our two children and felt that in this life I had no more regrets.